Welcome back to the Chad Hasty Show, News Talk 95.1 FM and 790 AM KFYO. Right now, we welcome him back on to the show, candidate for Texas Ag Commissioner, Trey Blocker, in the Republican primary, running for Texas Ag Commissioner. Welcome back to the show. How are you?
Good morning, Chad. Thanks for having me back on the show.
Absolutely. Let's talk about you and your opponent, you versus your opponent. Your opponent is out saying that you're a big-time liberal who has no ag experience and should not be Texas Ag Commissioner. I'll go ahead and ask you, how do you respond to those two accusations?
Well, it's very easy to respond to those two accusations. First of all, he knows that I'm not a liberal. I've been a conservative activist since my days in college. I went to a small school in Virginia called Hampden-Sydney, which was founded in 1776. Patrick Henry was on the original board of trustees, and I don't know anyone who doesn't get a chill up their spine when you read the "Give me liberty" or "Give me death" speech. My first campaign experience was working for Oliver North, trying to defeat a liberal Democrat in Virginia. I then moved to Austin to go to the University of Texas Law School, and in my third year of law school, I started the Civil Liberties Defense Foundation. And we started that nonprofit legal foundation to sue 31 cities across the country that were attempting to infringe upon our Second Amendment rights by putting gun manufacturers out of business. And we actually managed to shut that effort down. Today, we're using the Civil Liberties Defense Foundation to sue sanctuary cities and restore law and order and make our communities safe again. So my opponent knows I am not a liberal. It's a diversionary tactic to keep us from talking about his abysmal track record as Ag Commissioner over the past 3 years.
Now he'll say that you've donated to Democratic campaigns. Is that correct?
So for the past 10 years, I've run a very successful ethics legal practice in Austin. I have been, what I say is I've been doing missionary work in the People's Republic of Austin for the past 20 years, truthfully. For the past 10 years, I've been an ethics attorney advising politicians on how to be ethical, which, as you can imagine, can be a full-time job. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick has been one of my clients. And I've also had a very successful lobbying and legislative consulting practice. I've represented a number of different ag groups, including the Cattle Raisers Association, the Forestry Association. I even had the distinct pleasure one time, Chad, of representing the Catfish Institute of America. So, as you can imagine, as part of that job, I have given to Republicans and Democrats. Over the past 10 years, 80% of my contributions have been to Republicans. And as President Trump said during his campaign, it was just part of doing my job. And it's not a reflection of my political beliefs whatsoever.
Okay. So let's talk about what you would do different as Texas Ag Commissioner. Why should people, well, I guess first, what is it that the current Ag Commissioner did that made you decide, I've got to run against him, I've got to run for this office? What would you be doing different?
Chad, let me say that I'm not a career politician. This is the first time I've ever run for office. I'm a bit of a reluctant candidate, to be perfectly honest. My life was just fine without doing this, but what I witnessed was concerning to me, starting with his continual ethical controversies. As you well know, it's been publicized quite a bit. He used state resources to go to Oklahoma to get a Jesus shot. He used state resources to go to Mississippi to compete in a rodeo. And from his time as a House member back to 2007 all the way up to last year, he's been fined by the Texas Ethics Commission for numerous ethical transgressions. And, Chad, I don't think it's too much for us as voters, as citizens of Texas, to ask our elected officials to be ethical. So that is a major concern of mine, and I promise to restore honesty and integrity to the Department of Agriculture. And then the other thing that I will do immediately is lower fees. Over the past 3 years, the incumbent has raised over 100 different fees on farmers ranchers, grocers, and other small businesses in amounts that exceed 500%. And to me, this is tantamount to theft. So one of the very first things I will do is reduce those fees.
So how's the campaign going? What are you hearing from the average citizen that you're going out and talking to? What are they hearing? What are their feelings towards this race?
There are a couple things that I hear quite a bit, and the first one's not going to surprise you, but a lot of people, especially if you get in the Houston or Dallas area, they want to know what the Department of Agriculture does, right? Why should they care about this race? And my response to them is simple. If you like to eat, if you like to wear clothes, and if you like to put fuel in your car, you should care about this race because that agency affects all of those things. And so when you have a commissioner in office who's raising fees and growing the bureaucracy, as conservatives, we know that whether it's fees or regulations, those are increased costs of doing business, and those increased costs ultimately get passed on to consumers, and that's why people should care about this race. So that's one of the things that I talk about quite a bit on the campaign trail is what the agency does, how it affects you, and why you should care. For
those of us in West Texas, what can we expect? What can the cotton producers and others who are out here in this part of the state, what can they expect from the Texas Ag Commissioner if you're elected?
Lower fees, reduced bureaucracy, and I promise not to embarrass you. I promise not to send out offensive tweets and Facebook posts. For some reason, as I mentioned to you, I've represented a number of different agriculture groups across the state over the past 10 years. One of the companies that I've represented, Monsanto, has recently built a $140 million project in the Lubbock area to make Lubbock its cotton seed headquarters of the country, and I know that's brought a lot of jobs to Lubbock. For some reason, my opponent cannot stand Monsanto and other biotech companies of its similarity, and I don't know why. So one thing you can count on me is I will be a fair agriculture commissioner, and I will treat every company that comes before that agency fairly.
Candidate for Texas Ag Commissioner in the Republican primary, Trey Blocker, joining us here on the Chad Hasty Show. Early voting continues today throughout the state of Texas. Trey, tell folks where they can find out more information about you.
It's easy, TreyBlocker.com.
All right, Trey, I appreciate your time today. Wish you luck, and we may visit again before Election Day, okay?
Sure. Thank you, Chad. Always good to be on your show.
Thank you. That's Trey Blocker, Republican candidate for Texas Ag Commissioner.